Hi, this is Justin with Black Module Studio, back with another Unity tutorial. Today I'm going to be going over an old tutorial, updating it with using Unity 5. This tutorial is going to be on runtime terrain modification. So the first thing we want to do is go into Game Object, and go to 3D Object, and get ourselves a terrain. So now we have a terrain object. What we want to do is go ahead and create a script that's going to do our terrain modification. It's a C# script. We'll call it generate, there we go, terrain. Let's go and attach that to our terrain object. So we have it there. Go ahead and open this up. I use Visual Studio 2013. Doesn't really matter what IDE or text editor you're using. So the first thing we're going to need is we're going to need access to our terrain object so we can actually edit it. So we'll make that a public variable of type terrain. We'll call it terrain. Next, we're going to cache a copy of the terrain object's terrain data. That can just be private. So it's going to be private terrain data. The reason we're doing this is because we will be accessing terrain's terrain data several times. So instead of that, we just cache a copy once in awake. Let's do that now. That way we can use it several times without constantly having to access it. So terrain data equals terrain data. So now let's just go ahead and create our start function, and we're going to call the function that's going to do the load of or do all the work. We'll call it edit terrain, and then now let's go ahead and create that. So it's going to be private void edit terrain. All right, so in here we're going to need access to the terrain data's height map width and height. So those are both integers. So we'll say height map width equals terrain data dot height map width, and then same thing for height map height. What we need next now is we need a two-dimensional array of floats which holds the actual height of each x, y point on the map, or sorry, x, z point on the map. So we'll say float, make a two-dimensional array of that, call it heights. And to do that, there's a function on our terrain data that's called getHeights. Aptly named, makes it nice and easy. GetHeights. Now this takes four integers, an x base, a y base, a width, and a height. And what this is where in the height map we want to start in the x and the y, and then where we want to end. Well, it's not the end point, it's how large of a square we want to make, basically, that we want to grab. So we're going to start, since we want to grab everything, we're going to start at 0, 0, and we're going to go all the way to the height map width and the height map height. And that's going to grab the entirety of the heights. So now that we've done that, we want to actually, let's go and, there we go. We want to so we've grabbed all the data we need. Now we want to actually edit that data. So we'll say for int z equals 0, z is less than height map height z plus plus, and then we're going to also loop through our x's. So x equals 0, x is less than height map width, x plus plus. So now we're looping through every single point in our heights array. Now we actually want to adjust the height. So we're going to make a couple floats. We'll want our cosine, which will be, we're just going to make some sine, cosine, like wavy bumps. So cosine of x, and then we want sine, so we'll actually get negative mathf dot sine z. And then we're actually going to set the heights, this heights array with that data. So at the xz point in the loop, we're going to set it equal to cosine minus sine, And then let's divide it by like 250. Oops, 250, just to make sure the bumps aren't huge spikes. So now that we've done that, we need to actually set the data. Luckily, there's a nice, easy function for that called set heights. It's really similar. It takes an X base and a Y base that have the same function in our get heights. It's where we want to start. But then it just takes a 2D array of floats, which is heights. Well, we have... So what that's going to do is it doesn't need a width and a height because it knows where to end based off the width and the height of this heights array, but it also needs obviously the data in it, which is why it takes a 2D array of floats. So that's all we need to do script-wise. Now we can go into our terrain function, and we need that we created that public terrain variable, so let's just go and drag our terrain straight into that. Now we should be able to hit play and watch some spikes appear on this. Some sine cosine bumps, if you will. And there we go. Now we have nice bumps all over the place. So now what we can do though is I'm just gonna delete this. Oops, not that. Create a new one. Alright, so if we have a new one, let's go and throw all this on here. But let's say we want to only pick a square that's kind of, I don't know, somewhere in there that's like 10 by 10, right? So let's go and start at, I don't know, 50-50. And instead, we're just going to go make it 10 by 10. Just to show this off. That's all we need to do. Actually, what I can do would probably be a smarter choice. Use the variables I created. There we go, so 10 by 10. Now this should create a 10 by 10 square with those bumps, and everything else will be untouched. What is this? Outline endings. You can ignore that. So we'll hit play, and then we'll see that. Here we go. That we did not start at the right spot. Let's try that again. There we go. So we want to actually, when we set the heights, we want to start at 50-50, not at 0-0. So I'm just going to go ahead and flatten this. Oops. Is this not? That's up. Am I doing something wrong? Oh yeah. Here we go. Sorry, just flattening this back out. Alright, so now we'll go and hit play, and we will get, there we go, at 50-50, we get a 10 by 10 grouping of these spikes. It ends up making about 4 spikes, but yeah, so there we go. That easy to go and edit terrain. Yeah, so hopefully this has been helpful or can help you in your projects if you're trying to edit terrain, the Unity terrain at runtime. Stay tuned for some future videos. I'll be updating some other older tutorial videos, fixing some bugs in them, maybe doing them all in Unity 5. That way, everything's nice and updated instead of using. I think I was using like Unity 3 in some of my older tutorials. So, yeah, I think it's time for an update on some of these because a lot has changed. So, yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.